Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nintendo Week for the Endo Week of March 24th through April 1st, actually. I'm your host, Colin McIsaac, and I'm joined by Alex Plant.
Coming directly to you.
Ben Lemereau.
Hey, what's going on?
So this week we had a Nintendo Direct. Tons of meaty stuff about Smash Bros, about Mario Kart. It's super exciting. We're going to talk about that in this week's discussion section. But first, as always, we are going to round up the week in review in a news segment. So, let's dig in. At the beginning of the week, Sakurai said that Takamaru was initially planned to be a playable character in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, but he was cut because he wasn't well known enough. So what do you guys think about?
Well, I agree with him personally.
Well, yeah. So I mean, what do you guys think about that? Like, where's the line for who is or isn't famous enough to be in Smash? And do you think Takamaru could be in Smash Bros. 5? I mean,
I think it's got to be a good balance between characters that can naturally have like a good moveset just based on what they do in their game, and also popularity. And I feel like he's just nowhere near far enough on the second scale.
Well, at the same time, you've had Takamaru Murasame Castle references in Nintendo Land, and there is an assist trophy, and they just released the game for the first time on Virtual Console.
Right. So that kind of leads me to ask, like, do you guys think Takamaru is going to be playable in Smash 5? I personally think, like, at this point he's a shoo-in. If he was going to be in Smash 4, if now he has the assist trophy, I feel like he's going to get the Little Mac treatment. I think that Nintendo might be revving up to make a new Murasame Castle game, just because of how many references they've had to the series in the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, I would say in addition to that, if they're having this much trouble cranking out Zelda games, they need some other analog to that to be releasing on their systems, and Takamaru is pretty close gameplay-wise. So they need something like Takamaru, and so they seem to love bringing back classic franchises, so this would be a good opportunity.
That's a good point, and I think, just the idea of a ninja game is pretty cool anyway.
Yeah, a Nintendo ninja game.
Yeah. Splatoon is coming out soon, and it's Nintendo's first attempt at making a real shooting game. Actually, the release date was recently confirmed as May 29th. But Reggie Fils-Aimé says that he hopes that it does for shooters what Mario Kart did for racing games. The quality that he points out that makes Splatoon different from contemporary shooters is that Splatoon, as he says, isn't just about kills, but rather it's designed to be fun no matter what your skill level is.
I'd say, in addition to that, the Splatoon has these sort of breakout mascot characters, and that's something that you don't see in most modern shooters, especially online heavy shooters, but that is something you see in lots of Nintendo games, so it could be an opportunity for them to use mascot characters, not just in this genre, but in other genres too, to kind of give them that Nintendo touch.
Yeah, Splatoon's got a lot going for it, I think, and, this is a game that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy, but I don't really see it having the mass cultural effect of like a Mario Kart, just because it's cursed with being on a system that has such a low install base, and it's, heavily online on a system that doesn't really have a huge online install base either.
Yeah, it's definitely coming way too late in the Wii U's life to have any kind of major impact even on sales of Wii U.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So that brings us nicely to the next point, though. Like, Reggie said that he hopes that Splatoon becomes a major IP for Nintendo in the future. And I'm kind of wondering, like, if the conditions are right for that to happen. Because like you guys said, the Wii U has a terrible install base. It's especially not popular for online games, and Splatoon is pretty much online exclusive. I mean, they have some really good-looking single-player modes. Those look really good. I'm really excited for them, but it's obviously really heavily based in online team-based co-op. So I'm concerned that there is not a large enough install base for the Wii U for Splatoon to really make a big impact. And I'm concerned that if it doesn't make a big impact, that Nintendo wouldn't be willing to revisit it until several years down the line, instead of just like at the next console generation.
I see kind of 3 factors going on with Splatoon in terms of whether it could be an enduring franchise. One of them is that it's been demoing pretty well, which is a pretty good sign for maybe it'll be kind of a small scale sort of minor hit. If so, then as we carry over to future generations, that could give it momentum. But at the same time, I really don't see how they could turn Splatoon into an IP that isn't on Wii U, especially since the way that they focus on covering the map in Paint relies so much on the Wii U gamepad. I feel like once you divorce it from the Wii U gamepad, it becomes really difficult to justify its core concept. And thirdly, while I really like the Inklings and I really like the transformation to the squid, I feel the octopus enemies are kind of not very memorable.
Oh, I agree with you.
And that's a big thing if you want your IP, your intellectual property, to be big is you need a memorable villains, and that's just not there.
So something sort of along the lines that Alex was saying. I don't really see Splatoon being this like major IP that becomes, a big part of Nintendo's plans. I see it more being that game that has like the devout cult following that just thinks it's the greatest thing ever, but there's like 12 of them. But
Mother 3.
yeah, basically. But for that to happen, Nintendo has to support Wii U's online infrastructure for like years to come. It can't be like Wii, where as soon as the next console's out, they just kind of cut support for a lot of the old games on the old system. So it's going to be hard for this to be an IP that really gains hold because Nintendo just has to support it.
So a few months ago, there were rumors sparked by the Wall Street Journal that said Netflix and Nintendo were working together on a Netflix-exclusive Zelda series that aimed to be something sort of like Game of Thrones for all ages. Neither company has acknowledged the rumors until recently, when Iwata said that the Wall Street Journal's article was, quote, not based on correct information. So the question now is whether this is an outright rejection that a Zelda Netflix series is happening, or whether it's a sort of coy kind of way to let things fizzle out while the companies get their ducks in a row and prepare to reveal a different kind of plan for a Netflix series in the future.
I mean, you're right. It is a coy kind of way of saying, well, I'm just not going to talk about it. Because he doesn't say, oh, well, we're not working on anything like this. He says this rumor is not based on correct information, implying that somewhere out there is correct information. But I really couldn't say. I think if they're going to reinvigorate the Zelda series popularity, they need to try to put it in the league of Game of Thrones. But that doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that the Wall Street Journal would make anything up, but it sounds to me like they just caught on to like a really small nugget of information about something that may or may not happen, and they kind of ran with it. That's kind of the vibe I get off of it.
Yeah, that's definitely what I got when the story was originally published a few months ago. But especially because the Wall Street Journal is usually such an incredibly reliable source, and if the story doesn't have a nugget of truth to it, at least, they'd have had to practically make the story up, which I have a really hard time believing they would do.
I would agree with that.
Cool. Okay. Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions is an orchestral concert series by the same people who made the popular Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses. And they have just added 30 new tour dates to Symphonic Evolutions. So if you're a fan of Pokemon and you like the game's music, I really recommend you try to catch a show. I saw the one in Pittsburgh a couple months ago, and oh my god, it was fantastic. I don't know if either of you two have seen a show. I think there have only been 2 of them.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's too bad. So a few days ago, a supposed leak showed up on Reddit of a 3DS port of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. As with most supposed leaks, it turned out to be fake, but it absolutely blew up, which to me says 2 things. One, that people really like The Thousand-Year Door, which is no surprise because that game is amazing. And 2, people really want a Paper Mario game on the 3DS.
Yes, the first Paper Mario game on 3DS.
Yes.
I mean, at this point, shouldn't they just put it on Wii U and just forget that other game doesn't exist? Exist?
To be fair, it had good level design.
Yeah, and that's what I hear. Honestly, I don't really like the Thousand-Year Door.
Okay, well, you're not welcome to any more episodes of this podcast.
Second.
Well, maybe I should put a caveat. I don't like it nearly as much as I like the first one.
That's fair. The first one is also fantastic. But anyway, so there hasn't been a traditional Paper Mario formula game in 11 years. So that series is really, really ripe for a comeback to, back to its roots. And Paper Mario fans are really clamoring for something that's like the original too. At the same time, Nintendo really wants to remake games for Nintendo 3DS. We've talked before in the podcast. We actually had like a whole discussion segment because Nintendo said that a lot of their 3DS strategy going forward is remaking old games. So the question is, this rumor was fake. We know that, but is it possible that Nintendo is remaking Paper Mario or Paper Mario Thousand-Year Door regardless of this? We know it's fake, but is it possible that they are thinking of returning to Paper Mario's roots anyway?
Thinking of returning to Paper Mario's roots? Yeah, probably. But I think that would be a new game.
Yeah.
They might remake Thousand-Year Door. And I say Thousand-Year Door because Paper Mario is about to be available on Wii U Virtual Console, and so they'd be kind of competing with themselves.
Yeah, that really hurt my dreams. What I was really hoping was they would upgrade both Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. They would upgrade Paper Mario to 3DS and upgrade Thousand Year Door to Wii U.
Or make a dual release of both on Wii U and HD.
Well, that would be even better, obviously, but I'm sure I'm sure Nintendo wants the 3DS to have a Paper Mario game.
And I think this is something I brought up maybe a couple weeks ago on the podcast, but back in like 2013, someone who works for Intelligent Systems, which is the company that makes Paper Mario, put on their resume that they were working on a new unannounced Wii U game. So, and that was after Shin Megami Tensei Crossfire Emblem had already been announced. So, but I mean, we haven't really heard anything from them since then. So, could be Paper Mario, maybe not. I'm hopeful.
A fan of Super Mario 64 remade Bob-omb Battlefield in the Unity engine and made it playable through your very own web browser. Nintendo, unfortunately, forcibly removed the project, so it's no longer available. However, you can see footage of it from before it was taken down if you'd like to see how Super Mario 64 would look in the modern day. Interestingly, they removed it one day before today, which for you guys listening is yesterday, assuming you're listening on April 2nd.
So many
amusingly,
assumptions.
Yeah. They took it down on March 31st, and on April 1st, they announced that Super Mario 64 was coming to Wii U Virtual Console. Also, they released Super Mario 64 for Wii U Virtual Console. So, if you hear that, you can play Super Mario 64 on Wii U right now, as you're listening already.
You know, if anything, if Nintendo did make a Super Mario 64 HD, I would think this fan project would just, like, serve to raise hype for it, because they only released the first level, and it just exploded on the internet. It was, trending on
really
social
weird.
media and everything, so...
Also, it wasn't really a very good remake of the first level.
No, it wasn't even very good.
They changed a lot.
Well,
I will say, though...
I thought they didn't change a lot. I thought they left the wide-open N64 spaces and, like, retextured them, did a couple new models, but didn't really fill it with any interesting new content.
Well...
Which, I mean, N64 games, when you remake them in HD, you gotta fill them with new content, because N64 had a ton of wide-open spaces that were acceptable back then because it was 3D, oh my god, but now it just looks boring.
Yeah, fair enough.
By far the biggest story of the week is that Zelda U has been delayed. It's no longer a priority for the game to release in 2015, and instead they're going to focus on making the game the best it can possibly be. Aonuma wants Zelda U to give players an incredible sense of exploration that hasn't been felt in any Zelda game to date, including some of the very first ones. And the team has come up with so many things to make that vision a reality that they need more time to fully realize all of those ideas. So he says the goal now is to create the ultimate and most complete Zelda game. Those are his words. So what do you guys think about this delay?
Well, I mean, obviously it kind of sucks because Wii U's been without its first original Zelda game it'll have been probably about 4 years by the time this thing actually drops. So from that perspective, it's not the best situation, but at the same time, what we've seen so far just hasn't really been very exciting. At least as far as you would expect to be excited from a Zelda game. You'd expect to be excited about the world. You'd expect to be excited about like the monsters and the story.
So, I don't know about you. I'm personally really excited about the idea that there's life in every corner, in every grove, and there's a secret everywhere you go. But the VGA demo they showed, it was so visually gorgeous, but the world just felt so empty. I mean, they said, like, there could be a dungeon behind that rock, but I'm willing to bet there wasn't a dungeon anywhere close.
Well, honestly, I got the sense from the demo that they were intentionally just showing us navigation and that they didn't want to show anything else off yet.
It was very important to tell us that horses don't usually run into trees.
Exactly. Like, that was the first thing they really showed. I don't know that they were aiming to show us those kinds of things.
Well, so, I mean, you may be right, but, I mean, there's also the issue that, like, every tree was just the same model plastered in to, like, the same pegs. It didn't look like it was really the living, breathing world that
it ought to be.
Ideally, that it ought to be. So I'm thinking that this delay could be for the better, because I was frankly really concerned that with a 2015 release, they wouldn't be able to turn what they showed us at VGA into the game that we actually want Zelda U to be, and the game that Nintendo wants Zelda U to be.
No, I agree. If they've shown off a game less than a year before it launches, and you can't even really figure out what it's about, and that means showing more than just, oh yeah, there's an open field, then you need to re-announce your game, basically.
Well, especially when the map is so big.
Yeah.
If you account for how long the map is, it takes an hour to travel from one side of it to the other by horse, which
At
is
least.
insane.
Yeah.
That's
And
an
we still don't know
insanely
we still
large
don't
world.
even know what we're going to be doing in this world. We
Right.
just know that it's there.
And so that's why I had so many doubts that if it released in 2015, it was gonna be a good game. And so I don't know about you guys, but I'm very relieved that it's coming in 2016, and this gives me a lot more hope for Zelda U.
Yeah, I think we can expect some pretty big changes just from what they've shown us so far. Like, Aonuma's language in the announcement didn't really seem like we need a little more time to add a few features here and there. It sounded more like an overhaul to me. And I think the reason it's skipping E3, I mean, like, a lot of people kind of expected it to get delayed, but a lot of people were shocked that it's skipping E3 when they've already shown it off twice. And I think the reason why they're doing that is the first time they showed off the game at E3 last year, we got to see, like, the pretty graphics, and you got to see, laser beams and explosions. It was just, like, sort of an exciting, grab your attention
Sounds
trailer.
like a space game all of a sudden.
It's Michael Bay making Zelda, right?
It even made Star Wars sounds, which I thought was interesting.
Pew, pew.
Anyway.
So then, the second time they showed us the game at the VGAs, the focus was on, look at this huge freaking overworld, look at this map, look how far you can go. So I think, when it comes to E3 2015, if they're going to show off Zelda, they got to show us core gameplay. They've shown us some of the exciting, head-turning stuff. They showed us the big world. Now they got to show us the meat of the game. And I think the reason it's not coming to E3 is because they have no meat to show us yet. Because they've gone back to that core gameplay and said, this isn't working, let's change it. And that's why I think it's skipping E3.
Yeah, I'm completely with you.
If you look at exactly what he said something like, we've been playing around in this vast open world with lots of freedom, and we've come up with new ideas, which makes it sound like they're kind of learning as they go how this should work. So, yeah, I definitely agree that they need time to overhaul how they approach that freedom.
But in light of this Zelda news, Nintendo announced that this year's E3 is going to focus on games launching in 2015. So that means Xenoblade Chronicles X, Yoshi's Woolly World, Star Fox, Metroid.
Maybe. Or not.
We'll see. But my question that I've been wondering is, would Nintendo let them delay Zelda if they didn't have another 2015 system seller up their sleeves? We know that Yoshi's Woolly World has been pushed to fall, and we know that Mario Maker's also been pushed to fall. But I really don't think that Nintendo would let Zelda U come out in 2016 if they didn't have something else for holiday 2015 to really get people excited.
Well, we know Iwata said that they do have more unannounced Wii U games on the way, but I don't know if there's anything that's anywhere near the caliber of a Zelda coming out.
Right. Well, I'm calling it right now. Super Mario Galaxy 3 is coming for holiday 2015. I really believe that.
He's staking his career on it.
I'm not staking my career on it, I just am saying that I believe it. Nowhere did I say I was staking my career on
at least
that.
EAD Tokyo's next game.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that they have an ace in the hole, and particularly because they've been delaying so much stuff to fill the fall catalog. It might wind up being that Star Fox just becomes the holiday title just because there's nothing else.
But Star Fox sells so poorly.
Oh, I know. But it's Miyamoto's big game, so I mean, obviously, it's Miyamoto's games are going to save Nintendo.
Well, to be fair, so far Nintendo's big holiday games really have not made much of a difference in terms of system sales. As in, Nintendo's first holiday with Wii U sold as many consoles as their second and third ones combined. So
yeah.
It was, just the hype alone sold more games than Smash Bros. Or New Super Mario 3D World did.
Well, and Amiibo probably made more of money for them than any of the holiday games they've been putting out anyway last year. So
yeah, that's fair enough.
But getting back to their focus on 2015 games, I'm actually kind of glad that they're focusing on 2015 this year at E3, because it seems like in past years, and this isn't just limited to Nintendo, companies have been like dumping games that aren't even going to release for another year or two, and
or three.
It gets kind of, or three, or never in the case of the
Last Guardian.
Last Guardian. Final Fantasy versus...
Barry's listening to this podcast crying.
And I'm getting kind of tired of seeing these games that may or may not come out. So it'd be nice to see stuff that I know will reliably come out in the next 6 months at E3.
All right, so as always, we're going to conclude the news segment of this week's show with a lightning round of little nuggets of information. After the lightning round, we're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct, so do stay tuned. So, some upcoming dates to look out for. On April 4th, which is this Saturday, you'll be able to buy the regular Mario amiibo from the Super Mario series as a standalone product without having to buy Mario Party 10. April 2nd, which is tomorrow, in fact, or today, if you're hearing this, it's today, Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures, the NES-inspired game starring the Angry Video Game Nerd, is coming to Wii U eShop. Mewtwo is coming to Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS on April 15th, 28th if you did not register on Club Nintendo, and he will be available for those who did not register for $4 for each game or $5 for both, if you buy them for both. Splatoon launches on May 29th alongside a newly announced line of Splatoon amiibo. The second DLC pack of Mario Kart 8 launches on April 23rd. And on April 23rd, there is also a big Mario Kart update that we will talk about in the Nintendo Direct discussion. But mark your calendars for April 23rd. Puzzle and Dragons Collection, if you care at all, launches on May 22nd. It's in stores and in the eShop. And finally, the NES Amiibo is a GameStop exclusive, but that's coming on tomorrow, in fact. Pre-orders open tomorrow.
Or today,
Which is
if
today,
you're listening
if you're
tomorrow.
Today. You know what I mean. It's actually, you don't know what I mean, but it's today. It's today.
It's April 2nd.
Today. April 2nd. So then some general facts from last week and reminders for you. Twitch Plays Pokemon has caught all 151 Pokemon in Red version. Playtonic Games may collaborate with Rare on Rare's secret project, which
may or
sounds
may
like
not be
it will be
Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie.
It's Conquer Project Spark. Let's
Stop
just
it, you.
Set the expectations low now.
It's grabbed by the ghoulies, too. The UK retailer Game is giving away shiny Charizards for all 3DS Pokemon games, so if you're a UK listener, you can head over to Gamenesia and find the instructions for claiming your very own. There's yet more concept art and screenshots that have been released for Xenoblade Chronicles X. As always, it's absolutely gorgeous. There's also a launch trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, so you can check all of that out at Gamenesia.com. We got a ton of new information about Splatoon this week. Per usual, there's nothing revolutionary, but things are shaping up to look a lot like one would expect. Great single-player mode coming out. There are a ton of smaller details too, and a bunch of gorgeous new screenshots to boot. So again, you can find that at Gamenesia.com. A new mod of Super Smash Bros. Melee features a toggle for stage hazards, some new game modes, and more. It basically just turns the game into a dream come true for tournament players. So if you're in the competitive scene, be sure to check it out. Also in the Smash Mod community, version 3.6 of Project M is coming soon. It includes new music, brand new stages, and lots of other really exciting changes. So you can check out the trailer, once again, at Gamenesia.com. Alright guys, so we are going to go to the break, and afterwards we are going to talk about all this news from the Nintendo Direct. And no, they were not April Fooling ya. I kind of wonder what it would have been like if at the end of the whole thing, when all these sites were reporting it, Nintendo just said, just kidding. None of it was true.
It'd be really hilarious if they said, oh yeah, Zelda Wii is not delayed.
There's a real Direct coming tomorrow, guys. You have to do this all over again. That would have been awful. Anyway, we're talking about the Nintendo Direct. There was a ton of great news, so be sure to keep listening to this podcast, and in a couple minutes we'll pop back in after this beautiful music, not from Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions, but from a similar project.